Mhm.
It seems to be that when you start seeing more people around you having kids, it's
Yeah.
almost like it's starting to trigger a thought in you to, well, do I want one? The priorities that we seem to be having nowadays in culture are all about me, are all about self. It's not really about potentially sacrificing part of your life for a greater good in the future, which family for a lot of people is. So, what do you think about that?
And I'm not an expert in this area, but it makes a lot of sense to me. I do believe that seeing children, or seeing, your friend group start to become parents plays a role here, and perhaps a very significant role. Certainly, the converse is true. I've had comments from, young women saying, we're on a career path. None of my friends have children. I don't know how to have a child. I don't know how to fit a child into my work lifestyle. So part of it might be biology. Part of it might be just the practical uncertainty of how will I ever, reconfigure my life, because I haven't seen any of my friend group do this yet. So
Mm,
I think that is right. So, and just to extend that a little bit, it used to be when we had bigger families, we'd have more brothers and sisters, certainly more cousins, would be living in communities where we'd be closer to people we maybe grew up with. And if it wasn't someone in our friend group, it might be a sibling who had a child, it might be a cousin who had a child. So I think there's things are going against us there. We're living in more isolated worlds, and we're tending to live, I think, with people who are going through similar periods of life together. So we might be moving to the city, we might be studying together, starting the career ladder together, and hanging out with people of similar ages to us. And we're kind of remote from other parts of community who are starting, that path towards parenthood. So, yeah, and that plays in other ways too. I think, the distance that we now have between, people who, and I've moved country several times. People move cities, towns for careers, for other reasons now, and that means that we just don't have the support network around us, the parents and perhaps even the grandparents who would have been there to help out in some way, to raise a family. So we are left more on our own. So there's a lot of factors going against this here, but just to come back to data again, whilst all these are interesting points, we don't. People blame urbanization a lot for this, because you can map things back and you can say, oh, when urbanization started, that's when birth rates went down. But it didn't. Birth rates didn't go down evenly everywhere in parallel with urbanization happening at all. And if you look at these kind of oil shocks and crises that I mentioned earlier, you find that rural communities and urban communities were having fewer children. So it's not quite as simple a picture again as to say, oh, it's this one thing. So all these things are factors, but I want to come back to just putting the table again, if I can. There is one reason that this is happening, and there's multiple contributing factors, but the one reason is that fewer people are becoming parents. And just to emphasize a key point I probably skipped over a little bit, is that mothers today are having the same number of children as they did decades ago. So if you look at Japan,
mm-hmm.
uh, in Japan today, mothers are having 2.3 children on average. And I'm being very clear, just to be clear here, I'm saying mothers. So I'm looking at
Yeah,
those people who do become a mother, those
not
women become a
women.
mother. 2.3. That's exactly the same as it was in 1970. It has not changed in 50 years. Now, in the US, it's 2.6 children today. And if you go back to the mid 80s, it was 2.4. So in the US, it's actually gone up a little bit in terms of family size. The UK is I forget my numbers for every single nation, so I'll not quote every nation, but it's somewhere around 2.4, I believe, in the UK, and that's exactly where it was going back to the 80s, to indeed the 70s, I believe, for the UK. So mothers are not having fewer children at all, um, and that's quite remarkable to me. It tells me that once you have that first child, it doesn't matter what culture you're living in. It doesn't matter what the state of the economy is, if you're going through a crisis or not. It doesn't matter if there's other political changes going on, cultural changes going on. Mothers are resilient. Mothers are going on to have the same number of children, close to, I think, what their ideal family size would be. Not for everyone, of course, but overall, on average, it's remarkably resilient. The only thing that's changed in all of this is those people are not having children. So it's all about being in that position to have a child at that right time with that right partner. And then we need to look at why that, that has unraveled across all of these cultures and why that happened at the same time.